Okay, so we've got a really interesting set of sources in front of us today, kind of a puzzle.
Yeah, definitely.
One of you shared some incredibly personal writings, things about finding your voice, pushing through some really, really tough times.
Hmm.
And get this, finding inspiration in maybe the last place you'd expect. It all connects in a way that's, well, it's pretty remarkable.
It really is. And what's fascinating right away is the pairing. We've got these deeply personal blog entries from someone, let's call him Corey.
Right, from ccc.txt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chronicling his journey through cancer treatment. And then alongside that, a YouTube video about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. It sounds like an odd mix at first, doesn't it?
It really does. But as you dig in, the connections start to, well, they make a surprising amount of sense.
So we're focusing on Corey's blog entries. They span several months, and they're very raw, very unfiltered.
Yeah.
Just his thoughts on life, art, faith, all while navigating this huge health challenge. And the trigger for a lot of this reflected
In a video.
that YouTube video, 17 minutes long apparently, about how this violent indie comic became this huge franchise. $15 billion, it said.
It's incredible. And these blog posts, they're just a powerful look at resilience, aren't they?
Totally.
You see someone facing this major crisis, going through intense medical stuff, and yet finding these unexpected sources of drive.
So our mission, I guess, for this deep dive is to unpack those threads.
Right.
How did a piece of pop culture history, Ninja Turtles, get tangled up with one person's really personal search for hope and meaning during a serious illness?
Let's start there with that spark.
Okay.
Corey watches this 17-minute YouTube video, how a violent indie comic became a $15 billion franchise.
17 minutes. It just shows you never know what's going to hit you. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The impact was immediate. Corey writes that it just reignited this desire to make a comic book again, something dormant for decades.
Wow, decades.
Yeah. It really speaks to how those passions can just, lie waiting.
And then something triggers them.
Something seemingly small. Yeah.
And the comic idea itself, homebrewed havoc. You mentioned this, the main character is a sentient coffee cup, mutated by the exact same radioactive ooze from TMNT issue number 1.
You really can't get more direct than that. It's almost playful.
It is. But Corey explains it more deeply. He says it was about a relit hope in the love of true and honest self-expression. He felt he'd been suppressing emotions for a long time, and this was a way back.
Like rediscovering something essential, maybe something tied to childhood passion even.
Yeah.
It feels like an antidote to feeling emotionally stuck.
Yeah, it really hits home, that feeling of creative energy just sort of fading away in adult life.
Right.
And for Corey, this video about cartoon turtles, it was a genuine aha moment. A reminder maybe of why expressing that inner world matters so much.
So let's look at the TMNT origin story itself, the one Corey got from the video.
Okay.
You've got these two friends, Laird and Eastman. They're making this comic just for fun.
While working regular jobs, right? Like illustration in a lobster restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. It just highlights how sometimes the big things start really small outside of any formal structure, just fueled by passion.
And Corey mentions the early comics that they looked, kind of raw, black and white.
Not super polished, but they had this energy.
Yeah, like the vision was more important than perfect technique.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how open they were about borrowing things, like from Daredevil comics.
Oh, yeah.
The radioactive ooze, apparently. And the Foot Clan mirroring the Hand Ninja group.
No way.
Even Master Splinter's name being a nod to Daredevil's mentor, Stick.
Huh. I never knew that.
It shows creativity isn't always about pure originality, right? It's often remixing, building on things you admire.
Like a conversation between creators, taking something and adding your own spin.
And they didn't expect much. Corey notes they only planned one issue.
And they killed off Shredder in it.
Right. So the massive success later, and then the complexities, partnership issues, Laird eventually selling the rights for like $60 million.
Wow.
It's just a wild ride. Unpredictable.
But Corey also mentioned they got back together later for The Last Ronin.
Yeah, a story about loss, remembrance, kind of bringing things full circle in a poignant way.
But that core impulse Laird and Eastman had, just wanting to make art, that really seemed to resonate with Corey. It mirrored his own rekindled need to create, especially then.
Which brings us, to Corey's personal situation at the time. This is heavy stuff.
It is.
Around when he saw that video, he gets diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, back of the tongue, and a pretty big tumor in the neck.
And this wasn't the only thing. He lists a whole string of hardships just before that.
Yeah, a car accident, losing his job, his father passing away, some legal trouble.
Yeah, an incredible amount of stress and difficulty packed into a short time.
For context, squamous cell carcinoma is a type of cancer starting in specific cells lining body surfaces. So a serious diagnosis on top of everything else.
And his first reaction to the cancer news, he described it almost like detachment.
Yeah.
But then this immediate, urge to upload all his old art to DeviantArt.
Huh. Like creating a record.
Exactly. Leaving something behind digitally.
And what's telling is how he describes that older art.
Right. He says it was full of anger, hatred, sadness, despair, reflecting emotions he found hard to share otherwise. Art was the container for the negativity back then.
But now there's this shift.
A huge shift. With the new comic idea, Homebrewed Havoc, and also wanting to write this journal-style book, he explicitly wants to show the good. He says, and this is powerful, it is what's good that makes what's bad worthwhile to go through.
Wow. It's quite a perspective shift, facing something like this.
It really is. It suggests that confronting mortality can really make you reassess what matters, and consciously choose to focus on hope and share that.
And faith really comes to the forefront here.
Definitely. He talks a lot about the phrase, do not be afraid, saying it's in the Bible 365 times, he notes. And he sees it as more than just comfort, like a testimony of the power and control of God.
And you really see him lean on this during the medical procedures, which sound intense.
Yeah. Extracting 21 teeth, getting a peg feeding tube put in.
A peg tube goes directly into the stomach, right? Through the abdomen.
Yeah. For nutrition, when eating is difficult or impossible, and then planning for radiation. These are major anxiety-inducing things.
And that phrase, do not be afraid, becomes like a mantra for him, a coping mechanism.
The practical challenges alone sound immense. Not being able to eat normally, being toothless for a time, adjusting to the feeding tube.
And through it all, he keeps coming back to faith for strength.
We also see his relationship with prayer sort of evolving.
Also.
He mentions, the traditional amen at the end of prayers, but he feels God's presence is so constant now, it's become more like an ongoing conversation, less formal.
Interesting. Like a deepening personal connection.
Exactly. And he's actively feeding that connection too. Listening to sermons online, his local church, bigger names like Elevation Church, Joel Osteen, reading scripture.
They're really immersing himself in it.
Yeah. And he shares this key realization, I can't do it alone. And that's okay.
Accepting vulnerability.
Right. And linking it to that idea that God doesn't call he qualifies the called, trusting there's a purpose beyond his own strength.
And the idea of grace,
that
it's freely given, not earned, that seems really important to him too.
Yeah, a source of comfort. He reflects that maybe you only fully realize your reliance on God when things get really hard.
Makes sense.
He even talks about memorizing Bible verses, calls it memory anchoring the lessons, making prayer deeper.
So then he starts the actual chemo treatments.
Right. There's nervousness, definitely, but then relief when the first one goes okay.
He lists the meds, V-fluids, steroids, cisplatin, anti-nausea stuff. Seems initially optimistic.
But then, the side effects kick in, fatigue, nausea, losing weight, and his hair starts falling out.
The reality of the treatment hits.
Yeah. But what's notable is how he approaches it. He's proactive.
Hello.
Adjusting pain meds, drinking nutritional supplements, even planning to just shave his head to deal with the hair loss.
Taking control where he can.
Exactly. And he highlights his mom's support here, too, says it's crucial.
That support system is so important.
And then radiation starts. He describes getting the custom mask made, which sounds pretty claustrophobic.
Yeah, those masks have to hold you perfectly still.
But even through all this physical stuff, he keeps working on the creative projects.
The Homebrewed Havoc comic.
And another one with his cousin Victor, Primal Blizzard. It's like that creative drive is an anchor through the storm.
Later on, he mentions reading his cousin Victor's book, The Victorverse.
Right. And he says that reading someone else's finished work gave him a real push to finish his own writing.
That creative community, even just reading someone else's work, can be really motivating.
And he develops this really beautiful idea about his writing being a conversation through time.
Tell me more.
Connecting with people who might read it later, connecting even with his own future self, creating something that lasts beyond the moment.
That's a powerful way to think about writing, especially personal writing.
He wrestles a bit with how to end the book, though. Since it's a journal and life keeps going and there's uncertainty about the cancer.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing with documenting ongoing experiences. Where do you stop?
But he comes to this realization, it's not about a neat, happy ending.
Right.
It's about creating an experience that connects with people, that lives on, whatever happens next.
And thankfully, the later entries do bring some really positive news.
They really do. He finishes the cancer treatment. Scans show the tumor is shrinking.
That's huge.
He's looking forward to getting dentures, getting the feeding tube out. He even receives some unexpected financial help.
Oh, wonder.
And he expresses real gratitude for the doctors and nurses.
It sounds like a real turning point.
Definitely. He describes ringing the bell after finishing radiation, a symbolic moment.
Yeah, a big milestone. He got to take the masks home too, right?
Yeah, tangible symbols of getting through it. And he's gaining weight back, getting stronger.
That's great news. Are there lingering effects?
Yeah, he mentions ongoing challenges, numbness, some hearing loss. His sense of taste hasn't fully returned yet, but he's still creating, still working on comics, gaming.
Pushing forward.
Exactly. And his final perspective is really telling. The book is called Corey's Cancer Chronicles, plural, ongoing.
Acknowledging it's a continuing story.
Right. And he concludes that the real value of any story is who it reaches, who it connects with, which loops back beautifully to why he started sharing in the first place.
Wow, what a journey.
So yeah, we've traced this really, truly unexpected connection, a pop culture thing, Ninja Turtles sparking personal expression and incredible resilience during a massive health crisis.
It's such a powerful reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Inspiration can come from anywhere.
Absolutely. And that deep human need to create, to express ourselves, it doesn't go away when things get tough. Maybe it even gets stronger.
Yeah, it becomes a way to process, to find meaning, to connect.
So the key takeaways here, well, there's the surprising power of inspiration, obviously.
Definitely. And the need for self-expression when facing hardship, finding your voice.
And the importance of finding strength, whether it's through faith, like Corey did, or inner resilience or connections with others, finding meaning in your own journey.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about your own life?
For sure. Like, what seemingly random things have sparked something in you? A movie, a song, a conversation.
Mm-hmm. And how do you navigate challenges? How do you find ways to express what you're going through or find strength when times are hard?
It's different for everyone, of course.
Absolutely. But this deep dive into Corey's experience, it leaves us with this final thought, building on his reflection. If our stories really are about who they reach, who they resonate with, what kind of message are we hoping to send with our own experiences? Big ones, small ones, all of them?
That's a good question to sit with. Thinking about our own ongoing narratives and the impact they might have.